Hey there, I'm Kelly Sinkowski, and this is Roots of the Region, a series where we bring our local farms in Virginia into the spotlight. Joining me this morning is Mike Silver of Silver Ridge Farm. Mike, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
I'm glad to be here.
So go ahead and tell me about your farm. You're here in Stafford. Tell us about Silver Ridge.
So, I'm a fifth generation farmer here in Stafford County. We're in the southern part of the county, typically called the White Oak region. We're just off Belle Plains Road. My great grandfather actually was from New Jersey. He lived out in Spotsylvania County, was a spy for the Union, was arrested, imprisoned. The war ended, and he kind of got chased out of Spotsylvania County and ended up here in Stafford. So his name was Isaac Silver. My cousins call, and his youngest son was Isaac also. So to differentiate, my cousins call him Spizek. The elder is Spizek, and then the younger is Isaac. That was my grandfather's father was Isaac, and my grandfather farmed here with his brother John Silver. They had Silver Brothers Dairy. My father farmed with John's son Sam. Sam left for the ministry in Georgia. So then dad was here. He bought him out and then farmed with his uncle and father here on the farm. And now I'm farming with him. So we have row crops, corn, soybeans. We also have pastures that we cut for hay. Sometimes we grow barley, depending on our time in the market. Most of that barley that we use in our operation is bought from a farm in the Northern Neck. We also purchase cattle from local producers, as well as at the stockyards in Madison, Radiant, Marshall, Culpeper, etc., and bring them here to the farm. We'll background them. We also have a feedlot that we're finishing these cattle. We finish them on a cereal grain mixed ration with free choice hay. And we are fortunate enough to own our own Virginia state inspected slaughterhouse butcher shop. So we are selling what's typically called freezer beef, whole halves and quarters of beef to local producers. We do not have the inspection to sell to restaurants. We've been approached a lot of times by local restaurants who want to get that local food on the menu.
Right.
We can't do that unless they go through a federal slaughterhouse. And since COVID, most federal slaughterhouses are backed up about a year. We really aren't in wanting to pursue that. I think we do enough with what we have here on the farm through our own butcher shop, slaughterhouse.
That makes sense. So you're growing the row crops that you mentioned. Are those being grown as a food source, or is that something you're also selling?
The saying is we're marketing them through our cattle. We're feeding the corn to our animals, and those weight gains, we're either selling our finished animals through the butcher shop as beef, or any excess we have will go to Front Royal to a fed market sale. And then other local butchers and suppliers and packing houses will buy there. The soybeans are strictly a cash crop. Soybeans can't be ingested as a whole by our animals. However, we do use the soybean meal. So we're selling those. A lot of times they're going down, they're feeding chickens or going to be processed for chickens, that sort of thing. Soybean meal, we do use that. So our soybeans are sent away, and at some point the oil is extracted. You have soybean meal, it comes back, and we're feeding that to our cattle.
Gotcha. And then you mentioned that you do have your own slaughterhouse, and your website mentioned humanely processed.
hmm
What makes the process more humane? We don't have to get too specific on the details, but the overall.
Sure. A good friend of mine did the website, so I agreed with everything that she wrote. Um, I just think I tell folks a lot of time, our cattle are doing a job. They're taking food that we can ingest as humans and converting it to protein.
Mhm.
And our job is to make sure that they have a good life, right? To address any medical issues that they might have when the time they spend here on our farm. All our cattle are, we strongly believe in vaccinations. Our cattle that we buy are considered high risk because a lot of them are being weaned at the stockyard. In other words, a guy has a herd of cattle. He's going to wake up in the morning. He sorts the mamas from the steers and the heifers and the bulls. He sends them to the market. I'm going to buy them. They're under a good bit of stress from that. So when we get them, we want to make sure they're vaccinated well. There's actually a new product we're using that my brother-in-law is a veterinarian that he recommended. You put it on their forehead, and it's supposed to kind of simulate the pheromones from a mother cow. That's supposed to calm them down. I
Aw.
think it's called calf ease, but I'm not 100% sure of that. Um, I think they're getting quality feed. And then when the time comes for them to be harvested, we want to do that as quickly and as pain-free as possible.
And they have the ability to roam, is that correct? They're not necessarily confined into a barn, or do you have kind of a balance between indoor and outdoor?
So our animals are pasture raised and grain finished. What we're looking for in our end product is a well marbled beef that's going to be juicy and flavorful. And animals can be finished on grass, for a forage diet, or on a concentrate diet, cereal grains in this case, a corn and barley mixed ration, as well as free choice hay. Um, the Hold on, I'm going to lose track. No, so they're pasture raised. They're raised and once they reach their growth potential, probably about 800 pounds, we're going to put them into our feedlot. Um, our, I guess if you take a clinical definition of the square footage that an animal needs, it sure seems awful small to us. So our animals have got three different kind of tiered lots that they can hang out in. They're again with the free choice hay and the feed and all the water they want, as well as shelter from the elements when it comes. So they are on a concrete as well as a dirt pen at that time, pretty large one. Um, but part of the reason we're doing that is we're taking them out of the worm cycle. Once we get them off the pasture, they no longer have access to the worms. So we're going to deworm them once when they go into our feedlot,
Right.
and we won't have to do that again. And it also makes up animals defecate a lot. We don't have toilets. We have to scrape that up. Most probably we're doing that 4 times a week, 3 to 4 times a week, hauling that and for the most part, to a dry stack manure storage facility. And we're going to do that all winter. So we've got a great big barn full of cow manure. And now, as it's starting to get warmer and the plants can take up the nutrients that are in that, we're going to start spreading that on their fields, and that will be used for nutrients for the corn and soybeans we grow.
So let's talk about that kind of what you're doing with your sort of refertilizing the land. You guys are a Virginia Century Farm.
Correct.
What does that mean?
So that's a certification by Virginia Farm Bureau, and we just basically had to prove that our farm had been continuously in agriculture for over 100 years. And yeah, since like 1886-ish, 1888, the farm's been here in our family and we have been farming it. I cannot remember the certification requires that a family member farms it or if they live on the property, like not an absentee landlord,
Hmm.
but I'm not 100% sure of that. But we have.
Right.
If you drive up, if Kelly, if you were to drive over to the farm, you would pass my dad's first cousin and her husband, my grandfather's house that he lived in, my parents' house, and then I'm up the end of the barn in the old farmhouse, at the end of the road in the old farmhouse.
So you said that because it's been passed through the generation, what was the moment where you knew that you wanted to take on the farm?
Um, I was in college and I went to some job fairs and uh I won't say that this was the easy choice because it's not easy, but in some ways it was. Working here with my dad is probably a perk of it. I don't know many people that my dad's 81 years old and he's out right now with my sons are off from school today and they're cleaning, getting some loose hay out of the barn and feeding the cattle. They're not on the farm as much as I'd like them to be because we've got other activities and probably not as much as I was made to be. But I think we're all a little bit less conservative as we get older with our parenting. They're still not allowed to do a lot of things that their friends are, but that's a true benefit and something I really treasure. My dad's done it and done it really well for a long time. He's got a lot of knowledge. I can be little more emotional and hot-headed, and he's a very cool and steadying voice in my life. So I did take some time away from the farm. I thought I was working really hard, and I was in my 30s and didn't really have anyone in my life. And I just talked to my dad, super understanding. I said, I don't know if I want to work this hard and not have a future or somebody to share that with. And the only other thing I really love working with children, I teach Sunday school in our church. Um, I'm super silly and immature. So I had a person I knew at Virginia Tech when I went to school who was a child life specialist. And I thought, hey, that's something that sounds cool. So working with children in the hospital and their families, being an advocate, pain, uh, explanation of things. I think they're great. They don't generate revenue for hospitals, but they're such a valuable asset to families. And went down to Greenville, North Carolina, volunteered at the Child Life Hospital down there, and was there about 9 months to a year. I was a certified child life assistant. Let me walk that back. I was a child life assistant. I was not certified. Worked with certified child life assistants. Met my future wife, who was a certified child life assistant. Child life professional, and but wasn't sleeping. Bureaucracy made me crazy. I wasn't really working. I was working with the kids, but it wasn't like putting, I don't know, it was just different. And then I asked my dad, can I come back? And welcomed me with open arms. My wife and I were married probably 6 months later, and she came up here and she lives on the farm with me. We've got two sons, Isaac and Davis, here with us. So kind of a I probably most farm kids should probably work, and probably any family business I think should probably work away from the family business to get some perspective and maybe experience, and then decide what they really want and if they do want to come back.
Mhm.
And I did that. I just took a while before I left the farm to come back.
So how do you guys look towards the future? Because you mentioned you have two sons and they're getting some experience on the farm, probably not
Yes.
driving tractors at 12, but how did that work out?
Well, yeah, I don't. My son has driven a tractor 12 under supervision.
There we
Um,
go.
and I was never there was never any pressure put on me by my dad or my family to farm. Friends or other folks would allude to it, or hey, you got one coming along here, that sort of thing. Um, Looking at my boys, I don't know what they want to do. I've always told my wife, they don't have to farm, but I want them to learn a good work ethic that can be applied to anything, to see the value of hard work and the accomplishment that comes when you finish a job, that sort of thing. I think as a modern parent, we're fighting screen time a lot. I fight it. Doom scrolling can certainly get you. There's a lot of trying to educate them on, real life, um, is a challenge. I want them to have the opportunity to farm, and that's why I'm doing it. But I would never force them to or push that on them. Honestly, they could probably make a lot more money working a lot less hours at another profession. And it's just something that gets in your blood, that you like doing, that you love it. You feel something's wrong if you're not out working, what needs to be done. I do think we are learning to work a little bit less.
Mhm.
Since we didn't used to take off Labor Day or 4th of July, or we still will work if we have to. But we're cognizant of folks that work for us and help us wanting to have time off. So we're a little bit less, uh, not as much nose to the grindstone as we were maybe when I was growing up with my granddad. My granddad was a pretty hard charger, um, and
Well,
hated to
with
see an idle
that,
child.
what do you think? I mean, the old-fashioned kind of concept, the farmer is up at 4 a.m., out in the fields all day, comes home covered in mud and muck. Has that evolved? I mean, we definitely know we have more technology. There's different things that can be done around a farm to sort of upgrade some of the processes, make some things more efficient, but do we still have that sort of same old-fashioned kind of farmer life?
You could ask my wife. I still come home smelling horrible some days. Just kind of depends on what the job I'm doing is and covered with stuff. Not to be too graphic, but people in my family don't like to tell me when I have blood on my face, so I just walk around oblivious. If I've been working in the slaughterhouse, I would say that's a little bit seasonal. Right now, we've come through the winter. The butcher shop is a constant. We always have to be harvesting animals and we're always processing animals. It's just we need to crank them out. So that's always there. And
Hmm.
it's a luxury, not a luxury. It's fortunate because my dad there'll be like 108 degrees, super hot outside. You can't do anything. You've already got the hay in the barn. And my
Yeah.
dad says, guys, we're making money in here while other farmers aren't doing it. They might be servicing machinery or something like that, but we have something we do in bad weather and hot weather when it's raining that we can work inside and do that. The end of January to February, a little bit a little bit easier for us. Obviously, we fought a little snow and ice, trying to get cattle fed hay. Um, but it's gonna come soon. It's like a fist just hanging above you. It's gonna come. Planting, you're trying to plant. Hopefully, there's no breakdowns. We're gonna get fertilizer spread here shortly in preparation for those.
Mhm.
We've got the hay equipment's gonna have to get ready. We're gonna have to cut hay. We're gonna haul hay, get it put away. At the same time, still trying to keep the butcher shop going. Still meeting customers. So I will work a lot of hours. When necessary. I probably work more than the average bear, but there are certainly some days when I don't see my family until I come home at night and I see my wife. Um, but I will say we have the technology does enable us. You have to be careful. I'm not getting a lot of cardiac work in on the farm. I might be doing some lifting and moving, but my heart rate's not getting up. I think it can be a struggle for some farmers doing a lot of row crops and doing a lot of tractor driving. You need to really watch your diet because you're not, or have another avenue to get exercise because I don't know if we're necessarily known as being the most healthy folks sometimes, just with our eating habits and eating on the go and limited hours and that sort of thing. So that is one thing to keep in mind. I'm trying to do it now as I'm getting a little bit older.
So for people who want to help support local farms, because local farms, you guys are under a lot of pressure from the development that's surrounding you. There's a lot of land values that are being thrown out there because of development that's happening in the surrounding area. How can people support local farms?
Um, In our case, you could go to silveridgebeef.com and look around. Like I said, we offer the whole halves and quarters of freezer beef, and most folks need to have a freezer. Well, you need to have a freezer to have that much, 100 pounds of beef. You got to have it's not going to fit in the side of your freezer. It's not going to fit in the top of your freezer. You do need to have a dedicated freezer for that. So my friend Wade Trong from Elevated Wild was a chef downtown Fredericksburg, very talented individual. He and his girlfriend Rachel encouraged me to make do beef small shares. And the way Virginia state law works, an animal has to be sold before it can be harvested. So I've got to sell a half and two quarters. I've got to sell the whole thing. Um, but in this case, this is a 16th of a beef. The explanation is on the website. And I have to basically, I usually try to get four of those to make up a quarter. And then I'll match up with another quarter and then another half. And then we can harvest it and dry age it there. So that's one way for you to support. I think, you know, always the farmers markets are great avenues to
Mhm.
supporting buying local. I think downtown Fredericksburg does a great job. I've not been to the one at the courthouse, but a good farmers market makes you want to be there. Has things makes you want to hang out to purchase it. It's an experience. I do think folks can do their education. There are a lot of local folks raising beef, pork, lamb, eggs, bread, etc. That
Mhm.
do your homework. You can talk with most modern farms. You can send me a message on Facebook. You can send me an email, and I'll talk to you, or I'll call you back and answer any questions that you might have. Educate. I obviously like to talk a lot and can talk a lot. My wife says. So I'm always happy to discuss our farm. I'm proud of what we do. I think we produce a really good product. I think it's if you would look, it's I've been told I'm not charging enough. Um, and I know individuals who are charging a lot more, but it's a price point right now that Dad and I are very happy with it. You may have noticed in the grocery store, the price of beef is very high. We don't have enough cattle in the United States. Droughts have messed us up. The border is closed to cattle because of the screwworm. And so we're trying to keep our prices that it's not going to hurt folks. We did not go up during COVID. We were just really, really busy. So I think people forget very quickly that they didn't have beef on the shelves in the grocery store. Our supply chain can be affected. There's a strike going on now at a big packing plant that does like 3,000 animals a day. So when those things happen, the people that are picking up beef this week at my farm the price of their meal is going to stay the same for the next 6 months to a year.
Right.
They've locked that in and they've got the security. Hey, I don't need to go to the store to get beef. It's in my freezer. It's in my house. So that's another benefit of the things that we do.
Yeah.
Um, I think there's certain things that affect us. I do think I'll put this out there. We have land use tax here in Stafford County, and it's where we're not paying the full real estate value of the property. It's more
Hmm.
the amount that the land can produce. If we did not have land use tax in Stafford County, there would be no farms except for very wealthy individuals because the real estate tax would crush us.
Right.
Um, However, I do not, I think there's some people, and in fact, some elected officials that don't understand that with the land use tax, for every dollar that we pay in tax, we do not require a dollar's worth of services infrastructure from the county. For every for every dollar in real estate tax that they're getting, they're the house and the people they're in require more services than a dollar's worth. So I think it's like $1.18 right now for every dollar the county or a municipality collects, whereas we're significantly under that for what we're paying land use. Um,
Right, because most of your land is not going to be serviced by sewer lines and power lines and other infrastructure for that. You don't have roads that need to be built all over your farm. You just need space so your
right. No
cattle.
schools. We got right now on our farm, we've got two kids of school age that require school. So compare that to I know where you live, your subdivision. How many kids are coming out of that place right now? You know, how many schools
Right,
for that?
right. That's a great point. Yeah, there's a lot of benefit to having this land that has no other demands on it from the county. So that's a really good point, that the land use taxes should offset that because you're not costing the county as much as a normal subdivision. That's a great point.
And it's nice to look at.
Hmm, I bet.
Open space. I think we crave open space. You know,
Yeah.
it's people like to get away. As great as New York City is, a lot of people go upstate. And the only one other thing I will add, just think about real quick, my equipment is wide, and we are all in a hurry. Life is fast, and we've always got a place to be. Um, please slow down when you meet agricultural equipment on the road. I try to have lead trucks. I try to have flashers, blinkers, everything, flags going.
Hmm.
Stay off your phones. Pull into a driveway would be awesome. You and I cannot, when I drive a combine down the road with a corn header on it, you and I will not fit. But I do have the legal right to transport it down the road. Just a little patience. Just a little
Especially
patience.
when you have, I believe the road that your farm is off of is pretty narrow.
Pretty
So
narrow and wide, yeah.
any
Yeah.
development on that road that increases traffic is just going to increase more risk of collision and problems and people running off the road or into a ditch. So that's a great point. If you see farm equipment, get out the way.
Yeah, there is a proposed development that I don't need to go into, but I think they've said that we'll have some larger vehicles on it, and I believe the developers had said, well, agriculture equipment goes up and down that road all the time. I say a prayer every time I go up and down that road. I know the
Yeah.
liability that I have. I know the chance for somebody who's on their phone or who's just going at a teenager at a high rate of speed, the propensities for accidents. Two spray rigs have been run off the road by trash trucks in the past 3 years. So right on Belle Plains Road. And then
Wow.
a young lady got a little nervous and went off the side of the road meeting a not that wide piece of equipment um, 2 years ago. So it's definitely a risk. I think about that when my kids are going to be old enough to drive. Um,
Hmm.
Equipment, the tractors down the road, stuff like that. I'm going as fast as I can. The tractors won't go any faster.
Right.
So just a little patience from our neighbors.
Well, let's do some fun questions.
Okay.
Just think. Do you have a favorite season on the farm?
Um, right now, I like it a lot. Uh, Springtime's coming, but it's not quite here. I'm a little chubby, so I love wearing sweatshirts. I don't like I sweat all the time during the summer. There's no flies and insects. I'm not a big fan of mosquitoes.
Hmm.
We've got a little tiny piece of land on the marsh down at the headwaters of Potomac Creek. I love to go down there and just hang out and look at the birds and enjoy nature and just chill. It's kind of a little way to just get away and relax. But spring and fall, I would say fall as it's starting to get cooler. I like watch a little football. Driving the combine is probably the most fun thing to do on the farm. that we have to do. So harvesting in the fall, spring and fall are good ones, but there's benefits to everything.
What's your earliest memory on the farm? When you were a little kid being out there with your dad, what's the first thing you think of?
I was I was a kid who wore rubber boots. I wanted to be a fireman, so I ran around this farm in black, sweaty, stinky rubber boots and shorts a lot. I can remember, and I'm sitting in the old farmhouse, and my parents are my closest neighbor. I can remember being stuck many times in the mud in the field, but being stuck there's a low spot beside my parents' house and there was water in it and I got stuck. And I can remember her having to pull me out and then pulling out each one of my boots that were stuck. She had to wade out in all the muck. She was in the house and she heard a little coming from the
Poor
field
mother.
outside. So that's probably the first memory I have.
I said that's a good first memory, but what's your funniest cow story? I thought you have to have something with a cow involved.
I mean, I definitely had manure kicked in my mouth. Um,
Ew, kicked in your mouth?
it's sometimes on their feet. I've had it all over me. Uh, Funniest. I don't know. I remember vividly being probably eighth grade, maybe. We were working cattle and walking up behind one, and she didn't like it very much. I can remember being kicked right on my inner thigh, and just kind of that was a wake up call to me. A few more inches, I probably would have been singing falsetto, but just um,
Couldn't have your
not
boys.
so much funny, but I remember just like, geez, that could have gone really bad. And kind of being that was a learning day for me. I mean, cattle get out all the time. Our neighbors, God love them, they call me every time when something's out. We've had cattle out at night. Stafford County's finest have certainly helped us or called me or knocked on the door. Um, it's
What,
always it's
what's
always a
the art
relief.
of getting them back? How do you lead a cattle back to water?
Every morning we feed our cattle that are on pasture with a tractor, and they know the sound of that tractor. We also call to them, and if they get out and they've kind of gotten tired of hey this new grass or sniffing around and stuff, they will and haven't been fed recently. They will come back to you. They like it, and generally they'll go back to the same hole that they came out of. They remember that. Other times it's just a matter of herding them with my truck or with friends or family, getting them back in. It's
Funny.
it's always a relief when someone sends me a picture or I see like a White Oak Facebook page of cattle that are not mine that are in the road.
Yeah,
I see a picture of a big bull. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. Thank you, God. That's not ours. It's still a worry, and I don't mind helping, but
right.
it's yeah, it's a relief
Let
when
me
it's
ask
on.
one more question. You
Okay.
guys have cattle.
Mhm.
What is your absolute favorite dish with beef, or your favorite way to cook beef?
Um, Let me give you two answers. Steak. I think my youngest, his favorite food steak. Steak's easy. I like to grill. Minimal amount of preparation, but I will say there's it probably in the 90s there started to be a tendency where the beef market wanted to go toward we want to be like a boneless chicken breast. And we don't think that people who are cooking in their homes want bone in their meat. So they went to a lot of boneless cuts and if it had a bone in it, they didn't want to see it. Now we're seeing kind of a thing where younger folks want to see that bone. Hey, this isn't like a lab grown protein substitute. This is an actual animal and there's a bone and that's
Right.
so you don't see them as much, but I love a bone-in chuck roast cooked in a Dutch oven. It just falls off the bone. The chuck is so flavorful, so forgiving if you overcook it. Um, I that's one of my top like wintertime dishes.
Good. I agree with you on this steak. I'm gonna say my favorite is beef cheek. I don't know
Yeah,
if you guys do that. Do you guys do that in your
I
butchering?
would. I can. There are certainly organ cuts and other cuts that I can save if you order beef. So typically we save heart, liver, and tongue. If you want them, you can get them. If not, someone else will get them. Or I don't have to save them if you don't want them. Beef cheeks are an option. And in addition to the beef cheeks, the oxtail, we've seen that as there's been more influence from other countries and their culinary dishes. And if you go out to eat and you get some cheek tacos, that yeah, they're like almost like silky when they cook down, all that connective tissue cooks down.
That's awesome. So, Mike, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I'm really
Sure.
happy to have your farm kicking off our Roots of the Region Spotlight series, where we put local farms in Virginia into the spotlight. And again, Mike is with Silver Ridge Farm, which is right here in South Stafford. Thank you so much for having a chat with me, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Kelly.